The camera pans into the brightly lit studio of Good Morning America, where the audience is buzzing with excitement as the host welcomed the legendary actor Denzel Washington to the set. Michael Strahan, with his signature wide smile and charismatic demeanor, shakes Denzel's hand firmly, exchanging pleasantries about the weather in New York and how the city never sleeps. Denzel, dressed in a sharp navy suit with a subtle tie, nods politely, his eyes sharp and focused, hinting at the depth of thought always simmering beneath his calm exterior. As they settle into the plush chairs, the conversation starts light, with Strahan asking about Denzel's latest film project, a gripping drama about corruption in high places that has critics raving and audiences on the edge of their seats. Denzel responds eloquently, his voice smooth like aged whiskey, describing the challenges of portraying a flawed hero who battles inner demons while fighting external injustices, drawing parallels to real-world issues without naming names yet. Strahan leans in, trying to steer the talk towards lighter topics like family life and hobbies, but Denzel subtly redirects, emphasizing the importance of authenticity in storytelling and how Hollywood often glosses over harsh realities to appease the masses. The audience claps at his insights, and Strahan chuckles, saying it's great to have such a profound thinker on the show. But there's a slight tension in the air as Denzel pauses, sipping his coffee, his gaze locking onto Strahan's with an intensity that makes the former NFL star shift slightly in his seat. As the segment progresses, Strahan probes deeper, asking about Denzel's views on the current state of the entertainment industry, particularly the rise of streaming services and how they're changing the game for veteran actors like him. Denzel leans back, crossing his legs, and launches into a passionate monologue about the dilution of quality content, how algorithms dictate creativity rather than true artistic vision, and how young talents are being exploited for quick profits. Strahan interjects with a joke about his own transition from football to television, trying to lighten the mood, but Denzel doesn't bite, instead turning the mirror on Strahan himself, questioning how someone with such a platform uses it to address societal issues beyond surface-level banter. The audience murmurs, sensing the shift, as Strahan laughs it off, but his eyes narrow just a fraction, realizing this interview might not go as scripted. Denzel continues, his words flowing like a river, touching on topics from racial inequality in media to the responsibility of public figures to speak truth to power, all while maintaining a composed, almost professorial tone that commands respect. Strahan attempts to pivot to commercials, but the producer signals to let it run, captivated by the raw energy unfolding live on air. As the discussion heats up, Denzel recounts personal anecdotes from his career, like the time he turned down roles that perpetuated stereotypes, challenging Strahan on whether he's ever done the same in his broadcasting gigs. Strahan defends himself, citing his work in philanthropy and community outreach, but Denzel presses on, his voice rising just enough to emphasize points without shouting, dismantling the facade of celebrity niceties with surgical precision. The studio lights seem brighter, the audience quieter, hanging on every word as Denzel weaves in historical references to civil rights leaders and how their legacies are often sanitized for mainstream consumption. Strahan, usually unflappable, starts to fidget with his notes, his responses becoming shorter, more defensive, as Denzel exposes the hypocrisies in morning show formats that prioritize entertainment over enlightenment. By now, the interview has transcended typical chit-chat, becoming a masterclass in intellectual sparring, with Denzel emerging as the unchallenged victor in this verbal arena, leaving viewers at home glued to their screens, wondering if this is the takedown they've been promised in the viral title that's already spreading like wildfire across social media platforms. Building on the momentum from the initial exchange, Denzel Washington delves deeper into the conversation, his presence dominating the Good Morning America set as he addresses Michael Strahan's attempts to redirect the dialogue back to safer waters. Strahan, recovering from the earlier jabs, smiles broadly and asks about Denzel's training regimen for action roles, hoping to shift to physical prowess and away from philosophical depths, but Denzel seizes the opportunity to link physical discipline to mental fortitude, explaining how both are essential in combating systemic barriers that athletes and actors alike face in America. He recounts stories from his youth, growing up in Mount Vernon, New York, where he witnessed firsthand the struggles of the working class, and how those experiences shaped his unyielding commitment to truth-telling in his craft. Strahan nods along, interjecting with his own tales from the gridiron, but Denzel counters smoothly, pointing out the parallels between football's gladiatorial spectacle and Hollywood's illusion factory, both designed to distract the masses from pressing inequalities. The audience erupts in applause at one particularly poignant remark about how media giants profit from division while pretending to unite, and Strahan's laugh sounds a tad forced this time, his posture straightening as if bracing for impact. Undeterred, Denzel presses forward, questioning the role of morning shows in perpetuating superficial narratives, using Strahan's own career arc as an example of someone who's navigated fame successfully but perhaps at the cost of deeper advocacy. Strahan defends his choices, highlighting his efforts in education and youth programs, but Denzel dismantles the argument with facts and figures. He's clearly prepared, citing statistics on wealth gaps and media representation that leave little room for rebuttal. The camera captures close-ups of their faces, Denzel's resolute and impassioned, Strahan's composed but with a hint of unease in his eyes. As the interview evolves into a riveting debate that feels more like a courtroom cross-examination than a casual chat, viewers can sense the destruction unfolding, not through aggression but through Denzel's masterful command of language and logic, turning every question back on its asker with precision. As commercials loom again, Denzel raps a point about personal responsibility, urging Strahan and the audience to use their platforms for real change rather than rote pleasantries, his words resonating like echoes in the silent studio. Strahan, ever the professional, thanks him for his candor, but the undercurrent of tension is palpable, with social media already ablaze with clips and memes capturing the moments where Denzel lands his verbal blows. Continuing seamlessly, Denzel shifts to broader societal issues, drawing connections between entertainment, sports, and politics, critiquing how figures like Strahan, who straddle multiple worlds, could amplify voices from marginalized communities but often opt for neutrality to avoid controversy. Strahan pushes back, asserting his independence and the challenges of balancing entertainment with activism, but Denzel's response is a tour de force, weaving in references to historical icons like Muhammad Ali who risked everything for their beliefs, implying that modern celebrities play it too safe. The audience gasps at the boldness, and even the co-hosts off-camera exchange glances, realizing this segment is gold for ratings but risky for the show's lighthearted vibe. Denzel doesn't let up, his paragraphs of speech flowing uninterrupted as he exposes the corporate strings pulling at media puppets, including morning show hosts, all while maintaining a respectful tone that makes his critiques even more piercing. By the end of this extended exchange, Strahan appears slightly rattled, his usual dominance on the set challenged by Denzel's intellectual heavyweight status, setting the stage for an even more intense escalation in the live broadcast that's captivating millions. As the Good Morning America interview presses on, Denzel Washington intensifies his discourse, masterfully navigating the conversation to expose layers of unspoken truths in the entertainment and media landscape, leaving Michael Strahan to parry with increasingly labored responses. Strahan, attempting to regain control, pivots to Denzel's family life, asking about his children and how he balances stardom with parenthood, but Denzel flips the script, using it as a springboard to discuss the pressures on black families in the spotlight and how media scrutiny often amplifies stereotypes rather than humanizes them. He shares vulnerable moments from his own life, like mentoring his kids through Hollywood's pitfalls, and challenges Strahan on whether he's faced similar invasions of privacy during his high-profile divorce and career shifts. Strahan responds candidly, sharing his side, but Denzel builds on it, pointing out the double standards applied to celebrities of color versus their white counterparts, backing his claims with examples from recent headlines that resonate with the audience's nods of agreement. The studio atmosphere thickens, with the live band holding off on cues as the dialogue captivates everyone, Denzel's voice a steady rhythm of revelation that destroys any pretense of superficiality. He then transitions to the role of athletes and social justice, referencing Strahan's NFL days and how players like him could have pushed harder against league policies on player safety and racial equity. his words sharp yet delivered with the gravitas of a seasoned orator. Strahan counters with his post-retirement advocacy, but Denzel dismantles it layer by layer, highlighting missed opportunities and the comfort of hindsight activism, all while encouraging growth rather than condemning outright. The exchange feels like a chess match, with Denzel several moves ahead, anticipating Strahan's defenses and countering with facts, anecdotes, and rhetorical questions that leave the host momentarily speechless. Viewers at home are tweeting furiously, praising Denzel's eloquence and debating Strahan's handling of the heat. As the segment stretches beyond its allotted time, producers scrambling but unwilling to cut the goldmine unfolding, Denzel continues undaunted, expanding on themes of authenticity and public personas, critiquing how morning television sanitizes reality for advertiser-friendly bites, using Strahan's show as a prime example without malice but with unyielding truth. Strahan laughs it off again, but his body language across arms, lean back betrays a defensive stance, as Denzel weaves in global perspectives, from international film festivals to grassroots movements, showing the interconnectedness of it all. The audience applauds sporadically, breaking the tension, but Denzel's momentum is unstoppable, his paragraphs of wisdom flowing like a sermon that educates and enlightens, turning the interview into a cultural moment. As the conversation circles back to Denzel's new film, he ties it all together, explaining how the character's arc mirrors the real-life battles public figures face, subtly implying Strahan's own journey could inspire more if he embraced vulnerability over varnish. Strahan nods, perhaps genuinely reflecting, but the destruction is evident in the shifted power dynamic, with Denzel commanding the narrative and leaving an indelible mark on the broadcast that's sure to go viral. Deepening the intensity on Good Morning America, Denzel Washington continues to command the stage, his verbal prowess dismantling Michael Strahan's attempts to steer the interview back to entertainment fluff with relentless, insightful commentary. Strahan, sensing the tide turning, brings up Denzel's iconic roles in films like Training Day and The Equalizer, complimenting his ability to portray complex anti-heroes. But Denzel seizes the moment to critique the industry's reliance on violence and redemption arcs that often excuse systemic failures rather than address them. He draws parallels to real-life figures in sports and media who embody similar contradictions, subtly nodding to Strahan's dual life as a gentle giant on TV and a fierce competitor on the field, questioning if that duality serves the greater good or just personal branding. Strahan responds with humor, recounting funny set stories from his own TV appearances, but Denzel doesn't engage the levity, instead pivoting to the responsibility of influencers in shaping public opinion, citing how missteps in messaging can perpetuate harmful narratives. The audience leans forward, enthralled by the intellectual fencing, as Denzel's words cut through the air like a blade, exposing the underbelly of celebrity culture without raising his voice. He then addresses the elephant in the room, the commercialization of black excellence, how achievements are commodified and diluted, using Strahan's successful transition as a case study in navigating white-dominated spaces while maintaining authenticity. Strahan defends his path, emphasizing hard work and opportunity, but Denzel counters with historical context, referencing pioneers like Sidney Poitier and how their trails were blazed with sacrifices that modern stars sometimes overlook. The exchange escalates subtly, with Denzel's composure contrasting Strahan's growing animation, his gestures more pronounced as he tries to match the actor's depth. Producers whisper offset, debating whether to intervene, but the ratings spike keeps them at bay, allowing this live destruction to unfold in real time. Denzel presses on, integrating themes of mental health in high-pressure industries, sharing his own strategies for resilience and challenging Strahan on athlete mental health initiatives post-retirement. Strahan shares personal insights, but Denzel builds upon them, highlighting gaps in support systems and how media glosses over the toll, his arguments layered and irrefutable. The studio clock ticks, but time seems suspended in this verbal arena where Denzel reigns supreme, his paragraphs of discourse a masterclass in persuasion that leaves Strahan reflecting mid-sentence. As the segment nears its peak, Denzel ties back to societal mirrors in art and sport, urging a collective awakening, his eyes piercing through the camera to viewers worldwide, cementing the moment as legendary television. With the Good Morning America audience hanging on every word, Denzel Washington escalates his masterful takedown of Michael Strahan, weaving intricate arguments that expose the fissures in media facades while maintaining an air of profound respect. Strahan, undeterred but visibly challenged, shifts to questions about Denzel's directorial ventures, praising his work behind the camera, but Denzel uses it to dissect the power dynamics in production, how decisions at the top often sideline diverse voices, and queries Strahan on his own influence in TV programming. Strahan highlights his production credits, but Denzel probes deeper, citing examples of shows that prioritize ratings over representation, his tone measured yet incisive, turning the mirror inward. The conversation pulses with energy, Denzel's intellect a force that destroys complacency, as he connects dots from personal ambition to collective progress, leaving Strahan to defend broader industry norms. Audience members whisper, phones out recording, as social media explodes with live reactions praising Denzel's dominance. He continues, addressing the impact of social media on celebrity accountability, how platforms amplify voices but also enable performative activism, challenging Strahan's online presence as a mix of motivation and marketing. Strahan counters with his genuine engagements, but Denzel dismantles with examples of missed opportunities for deeper discourse, his words a symphony of critique and encouragement. The studio feels electric, co-hosts watching wide-eyed as Denzel navigates topics from economic disparities to cultural appropriation, each point landing like a precision strike. Strahan laughs, attempting to diffuse, but Denzel's unwavering focus keeps the pressure on, transforming the interview into a pivotal cultural dialogue. As minutes stretch, Denzel reflects on legacy, urging Strahan and viewers to prioritize impact over image, his eloquence unmatched in the destruction complete in its subtlety and power. Culminating the electrifying exchange on Good Morning America, Denzel Washington seals his verbal victory over Michael Strahan with the final barrage of profound insights, wrapping the interview in a tapestry of truth that leaves the host and audience profoundly moved. Strahan, grasping for closure, asks about Denzel's future projects, but Denzel redirects to the future of society, emphasizing unity and action over division, critiquing how media like this show can bridge or widen gaps. He shares visions of collaborative efforts between entertainers and activists, implicitly inviting Strahan to step up, his words resonant and final. The audience erupts in standing ovation as the segment ends, Strahan extending a hand in genuine respect, the destruction not of person but of pretense, etched in television history. Reflections pour in online, hailing Denzel's mastery, while Strahan's grace under fire earns nods, the moment a catalyst for deeper conversations beyond the screen.